We have been covering the assassination attempt of President Trump since the day of. We were the shots rang out at 5:11 Central Time. By 5:17 Central Time, 6 minutes later, we were on air, and we have been covering it ever since. And one of our biggest assets on the ground, if you will, is investigative journalist George Webb, whose latest piece at Substack is Assassination Sheriff Lashes Out at Citizen Journalist. Projection of blame now a high art form in presidential assassination circles in Butler, Pennsylvania. And George, using his AI artwork generating skills, has made a tragedy out of Paul Blart Mall Cop. George Webb, leave Paul Blart, the lovable Paul Blart Mall Cop, out of this. He did nothing. It's not his fault. But you had to throw Mall Cop into all this. How are you, brother?
I'm great. I'm great. I just said you could stop the whole assassination with one mall cop and a lawn chair on the roof. I also gave credit to the Walmart cop. You saw the Walmart cop. You saw the kid with the drone that could stop it. You saw the various other people, grandmother with caution tape could stop it. You saw the various people who could stop this. And I just thought I'd take a little fun with the AI art.
Yeah, I love the grandma with the caution tape. The only problem with the grandma with the caution tape is if she's a Trump fan, she's probably in jail for being in there on January the 6th.
Well, you mentioned Kamala Harris and you mentioned Macbeth, and I think this story has now taken a crazy turn toward. You remember when Lady Macbeth trying to get the blood off her hands after they kill the king, and out spot out, she's scrambling to try to get the blood off her hands. We have that bloody scene within the bloody sink right out of Macbeth in this story now. In the command post, we have this guy who's making the Dave Stewart guy who's making the video out there by the American Glass Research Building 6, and he gets over near a police car. As they're moving him around, and he can get the chatter and back talk off the police. It's on his video, and it says, first shooter dead, chasing second shooter, we breached the building, and we're going in, there's blood in the sink. So they're chasing a second shooter, and Dave Stewart's saying, hey, how could there be, if the first guy's dead on the roof, how could there be a second guy bleeding in the sink? There has to be a second guy.
Right.
So that's today's news.
Now, who is it that says that they're chasing the second? Just for our listeners, so they'll understand, who says they're chasing the second shooter?
It's a township radio. I think it's Butler Township Radio. The Butler Township people are actually really good to me in Butler. So I think he's overhearing a Butler Township police car saying, "Hey, we're going after." And I produced on George Webb on my Real George Webb 1 Twitter. You can see the clip where you could actually hear Dave talking about that. And that's going to be, that's hard to explain. How was the guy bleeding on the first floor when the other guy's dead on the second floor?
Okay, realgeorgewebb.substack.com. This is your fifth visit here. We visited every week. I want you to walk me through something, brother, because I'm just a little confused. So I'm going to play Public Citizen Reader of George Webb Substack, Public Citizen number 1, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Explain how the bloody handprint, I see it. I believe it's a handprint. It is clearly someone's left hand that is on the wall that was scaled by the Butler Township cop, by his buddy helping him up, by throwing him up, by clasping his hands together. But this handprint is already there before shots are fired. So I'm trying to figure out, okay, what is George, you're saying that this is possibly Urich's handprint and Urich's blood, but why wouldn't he still be on the roof? Why is he bleeding? And this is what? This is like, he's on the cop is on the way up. He is 39 seconds, according to my timeline, from the time he falls backwards after not showing Crooks on his body cam. There were 39 seconds to the shot rings out. So in your theory, Whose blood is that on the wall? Why is it there before the shots? And where is the person whose blood that you think, or where do you think this person whose handprint is on that wall? Where are they?
They're in the command center. Now they practice this on the 8th, and part of any preparation for a big event like this is you practice, right? You practice how you're going to go from an incognito position to a ready position to a fire and aim position, right?
Okay.
And they went to the Walmart, so I have evidence on this. They went to the Walmart on the 8th. Urich and Crooks, I believe, go there. We don't have the film from them buying those 5-foot ladder, but you have to scale the building in order to get to the shooter position, right? Yes. And you have one shooter. My theory is one shooter, which is Urich. You have one spotter, which is Crooks. So Crooks is being the patsy as a spotter. The Urich fires the 3 shots, okay, and then says, "Cover me," and then takes his exit, right? Because he's going to go do something. You know, he's outlined there's some threat in the audience that he's going to go neutralize. And Crooks fires 5 covering shots. That puts everybody's head down, and that covers Urich's escape. Urich goes into the command center. He's bleeding profusely. Now, he could have injured himself on the 8th when they went to get the ladder at Home Depot while they're practicing this, because what you have to do is hold this concrete block at 10 feet with your left hand, right, and then dangle down and then fall the last 4 feet down. And if you, in that motion, if you cut your hand doing that, and then you put your hand against the wall, you leave a bloody handprint. It would be dried. It would be 5 days later on the 13th.
Oh, okay. I got it. Got it. So this was a practice run.
Yeah, practice run.
Okay.
But my point is that on the day of the shooting, he re-injures the hand, right? The hand is bleeding again. And you can hear Dave Stewart's video saying, first guy dead on the roof. The police chatter says the first shooter dead on the roof. We're pursuing the second shooter, going in, breaching the second building, breaching the building. He's bleeding in the sink. So he's re-injured the hand in some way. The ladder escapes. We also have now a backpack being surreptitiously moved over at the 1900 mark, at the 6 o'clock mark, a backpack being surreptitiously removed by some insiders in that command post. So this thing is exploding in terms of loose ends, and that whole conspiracy is unwinding, I believe.
Okay. George Webb, GeorgeWebb.substack.com, investigative journalist. George, I want to play for the audience, especially those watching on Crusade Channel TV out there. Here is the audio recording of what George is talking about from Real George Webb 1 at x.com.
Okay, George Webb, second shooter video. People say, where do you get the information from? Directly from the police. Here's Dave Stewart, the guy behind the tree, second shooter. Blood in the bathroom later on. How can that be if there's not a second shooter? I say the first shooter is actually Urich going down the side of the building, bleeding and leaving a bloody transfer stain on the side of the building. But here it is, second shooter. It's right on the radio, the township radio, right on the township radio. Dave Stewart right there recording it on the township radio. Second shooter, blood in the sink. Second shooter, blood in the sink.
I don't know why that's not playing. Go ahead.
Why isn't the audio playing?
I don't know.
The audio,
That was the audio? I know. I've heard it, so I know that it works. We'll see if you can get it fixed. Okay. So, second...
what Dave Stewart says is what I just said, is, hey, I went over to the township car because they were afraid I was going to get shot. I could hear the chatter on the chatter box from the radio. They said, first shooter dead, second shooter in building. We breached the building, and there's blood in the sink. The words "blood in the sink" come over the car radio. So this is the Kamala Harris Macbeth moment, outspot out, Lady Macbeth trying to get the blood off her hands. this is right out of Shakespeare, and we're not letting this lead go.
Okay, I have a lot of questions. That was just one of them. So let me go. Here is my second question. There's supposed to be an inquest. There's supposed to be this commission in Congress that they're going to get all this information together. The only one that's doing anything, Senator Grassley and Senator Johnson, it seems to me. We are a month today, George. 1 month ago today, July 13th, today's August 13th. 1 month ago today, this happened here. Still has not been a timeline that has been assembled by anyone that I know. And there are a couple of things now that bother me, and they are bothering me because of your reporting. The 3 windows that overlook the AGR building that Crooks was on. There's supposed to be 3 CS guys in those those windows. Is that correct?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when did they leave? Because they were there. When did they leave their post? And how is it possible with all the people running around there that are not in the fairgrounds where Trump is, the people that have been submitting videos, how is it possible that there is no video of those officers exiting those buildings? Now, we know at least one of them. We know who he is. We know who he is. Because he's in the body cam footage when the cop gets thrown up on the roof and he supposedly sees Crooks by himself, supposedly, which is what he says. Now, we tried to reenact this. And my friend and I went, okay, Justin here. Justin and I reenacted this. If he saw Crooks directly, okay, the body cam doesn't pivot enough to give us a picture, as you point out. But if his head pivots enough to the left, he's going to stop where he sees the gun. Are you with me on that?
You're talking about the pop-up cop?
I'm talking about pop-up cop. He's going to stop where he sees the gun. And because he's going to stop where he sees the gun, there's less than a second from when he stops and he falls backwards. There is not time enough to continue the pivot of your head to the left to see Urich. That's my point. Their story, the official story, which I never thought was all together to begin with, is starting to unravel. Let's go back to Pop-Up Cop. So Pop-Up Cop has gotten a boost from his fellow officer buddy who has clasped his right hand and left hand together. Pop-Up Cop places his right foot into the clasped hands. He is hoisted, he is boosted up so that he can get to the peak of the roof that joins the 2 buildings, the AGR building and the other building. As he gets up, he apparently begins to turn his head to the left. The body doesn't follow because it's up against the wall of the roof. George, are you with me on that so far?
Yep.
Okay.
And the body cam's about a foot below his eyes.
Yes.
But he's at a lower roof, and Crooks is at a higher roof, about a 4-foot higher roof.
Yes.
And his body pivots just the slightest amount, maybe 10 degrees to the left, doesn't come anywhere near the roof, catches a little tiny corner picture of Crooks's backpack, and then he pops immediately back down 40 seconds before the shots ring out. And my point here is this is a covering pop-up. This is where, hey, I did I did my job. I tried to stop the assassination. You know what I mean? No, the way to stop the assassination is actually having a mall cop on the roof, or a Walmart cop, or the kid with the drone, or the grandmother with caution tape, right? Not improvising some crazy, little kids Indian hoist game at the last second, right? And the camera does not show what he says he saw.
That's right.
Which was, he says he encountered the shooter, and that distracted the shooter, and that caused Crooks to stand up and pivot and turn his head and look and then point the gun at the pop-up cop. That's absolutely not possible, like you said, Mike. There's no possible way that could happen. That's a 1 to 2 second transaction, not a tenth of a second transaction. And we know that that's not what happened because the shooter went on to shoot. So to me, it seems like foreknowledge, that we're going to just have a show of intercession, have a show of, hey, we tried, but, just couldn't do it. And Trump got killed.
So, okay, let me play Diablo Avocata here, devil's advocate here. Let's just take, because we don't know, let's take preconception off the table here, and let's just run this out in real time. And I think that the scenario works either way. Pop-up cop ascends to the roof. Neck and head are above the line of the lower roof. So the body cam is exposed. It begins to pivot to the left. Backpack, yes. Shooter, someone in shorts, as he says. He says tall, white shorts, long hair, glasses. That's what he says. If you